So hey everyone, welcome to another React video. In this video we are going to create a Navbar UI with the help of React.js. So this video is for complete beginners who have just started with React. In this video we are going to use basic use state or dynamic styling and conditional rendering to make this Navbar responsive. So let's start this video. Start our project. We will first open the terminal, and in the terminal we will write npm create vite @latest to install the latest version of vite. So now let's name our project. We will name it nav UI. Okay, so let's select the framework, which will be React, and the language will be vanilla JavaScript, which is the basic one. Now we need to select this folder. We will type cd nav UI to select this folder, and then we need to install all the npm packages by typing npm install. It will take a few seconds.
A few moments later.
So now our npm packages are installed. We can open this folder directly in our VS Code by typing the command code space dot, and it should open our folder in VS Code. So as you can see, all the folders are structured, where your source folder, public folder and node modules. So now let's run this app. For that we will open the terminal and let's cut this welcome. Okay, so in the terminal write npm run dev. Okay, so now it should give us a link which will follow up in our browser, which is the default one. Mine is Firefox. So let's open this in our browser, and as you can see, they have given us a default counter app which counts to the number of time you tap on that. So let's remove this app. We will go to the app.jsx and remove the use state and the entire body, I mean the return statement, and also the import statements. Okay, we don't need them. Okay, so the next thing we need to install is React Router DOM. So we'll open the terminal and type npm install React Router DOM. So we will use the React Router DOM as a container. We will use that later in our app folder, but for now we should install an extension for using React icons. So in the extension tab, search React icons. So this extension helps us in getting directly the SVG file of icons, which will be much easier than using a third-party extension like Font Awesome. For now, because we are not going to use multiple icons, it's just going to be a few 1, 2 and 3 icons. So as you can see in the extension, if you search any icon, it will give you many icon variations from different websites like Material UI or Font Awesome. Okay, let's delete all the index.css and all of app.css. We don't need them. We'll give some default styling here. So let's give the margin and padding 0. Okay, we would need some fonts, so we will import fonts from Google. So go on your browser and search Google Fonts, and as you can see, the first one pop-ins. We are gonna use this font, but you are free to use any of the Google font you like. So to select a font, just select the theme, like how much width it should have. So let's select semi-bold 600, and we can do either link or import. So we will go with import. We will import this in our CSS folder. So let's copy this and we will paste it here. We should remove the style tags because it's not in the HTML or anything, it's directly in our CSS folder. So we need to also type the font style, so we'll copy it from here, I mean the font family. Okay, so let's create our navbar.jsx and navbar.css files here. So we will go in the src folder, and we won't create another folder to hold them. You can create a component folder to store the navbar.jsx and navbar.css separately, which is more recommended, but in this project I will just directly put them in the src folder. So now we need to copy this CSS, which will be helpful in the navbar.css directly. So let's set a background color. We will set the background color as white, and now let's add some color variables. We will use two color variables here. Color variables are useful. We will use the same color variables throughout the CSS structure. If you want, you can use your own color. We are using a dark blue color variant in RGB and a light blue color variant. So this color variant will be used with fonts, backgrounds and navbar elements, etc. So after that we will structure our app. Okay, so let's move to our app component. Here we will use BrowserRouter. What the BrowserRouter does is basically it acts as a parent component to manage all the URLs for your nav components. So we will import the navbar from the navbar.jsx. For that we have to write the import statement at the top. So with that our app component is done, I think. So now let's move to our navbar.jsx. Here we have to first import the nav link from React Router DOM. So it automatically written that, and now let's import the use state, and now this CSS file from navbar.css. So let's create the navbar function here. So const navbar is equals to return. Okay, so we should return a div. So the first div should be named, I think navbar would be a perfect name. So let's set it navbar, and inside that we will create a container div. In that we will store all our elements. So let's create our first element, which is a logo, using h1, and we will style with the help of span tag, where we will style the C and V of our logo. For logos I don't recommend using the h1 tag, because the h1 tag is a very important tag. So instead of h1 you can use svj or any image. So now let's check our logo in our browser. So let's see. As you can see, it's showing code venture with the C and V and capital. So now everything is perfect. So now let's add a menu icon. So we are going to use a burger menu. So let's set it menu icon, and inside the divs we would have to add icons, but instead I think we should first set the state. So const, I think we should name it show navbar, because it will change via conditional rendering. So show navbar, and the function should be set show navbar. Okay, then let's set its value as boolean. So we'll use state, and it should be false. Okay, then we need to create a function to change the state. So we will name it const handle show navbar, which will handle our state, and it should return, I mean it should change the state from false to true. So we'll use the arrow function here and set show navbar to true. Okay, now we need to use this function via event. So we will add the event on click in the menu icon. So we will use on click, and we will call the function handle show navbar. So now we need to add the icons here, but the icon should be in a way that it should change depending on the value of the state. So we will use a ternary operator. So it will first check what's the state of show navbar, whether it's true or false, using the question mark, and thus it will execute the code which is on the right side first if the value is true, which is our first icon, and if the value is not true, it will execute the code, I mean the icon on the right side of the first icon, which will only be executed if the show navbar value is false. So that's how the ternary operator works. So now we need to add the icons svj file. So for that we will open the React icons. In the React icons, we will need two icons for this. So the first one will be our hamburger icon, which we can search by typing bars. Okay, so there are a couple of options here, so we'll choose this one. We need to copy the SVJ and we can paste the code between the icon tags. So we need another icon for the close, so we will copy the SVJ for this also and we will place it in our second icon tags. So which one will show up depends upon the conditional rendering. We can check this in our browser and you can see the X1 is showing now. So now our menu icon is hidden, so let's add some nav elements. We will go to a navbar.jsx. Here we will add a div and our div name should be nav for. Okay, so let's change it to nav elements in a kebab case. Okay, we will do a conditional style name. So if show navbar is true, only then and then the active class name will apply along with nav elements. So now add the items. We'll use an unordered list. Inside that we will add list items, we'll add icon and nav link. So nav link will help us with routing. So let's copy paste this and we will do 3 elements, I think. Let's name the first one home and the second one portfolio. Let's name the third one, I think, projects. Yeah, projects would be a good name. So let's name the third one projects. I think we should add another one. Let's name it about. So about stays in the portfolio, but let's add it for now. We will think a good name later on. So we need to use the toProp which is the URL in React router. I think we will add more routing feature in this at the end of this video. So for home it will be just slash, and for nav link we will add portfolio. For projects the same. So it should be the name that's for your file name in your app.jsx. So we'll cover that later. Let's not think about that. Okay, so let's go for the last one, about. I think we should change the about and replace it with contact. So let's go for contact. We'll change the prop also. Okay, done and dusted our nav elements. Let's go for the icon, and we need some SVJ to place between our icon tags. For the first one we'll type home, the first one, and paste it here between the 2 icon tags, and it should work. So now let's move on for our next item, which is portfolio. For portfolio we should type person, because a person represents a portfolio better way, I mean the symbol. So let's copy this. I think this one is better. Okay, so we'll paste this. I think I pasted in a wrong way, but I will fix that later on. So let's move for our third item, which is projects. For projects, puzzle. A puzzle is a nice symbol for projects. We'll copy this one and we'll paste it between the icons. You can format with prettier extension if you have. I haven't done it yet. I will do later on after the project is finished. Okay, then our last one, contact. Let's choose this one and paste it. Okay, done with React icons. And for the first one we have to put a icon tag first before SVJ. I pasted it before the icon tag, so we will put another icon tag. Okay, already there is, so I just cut this icon tag here and it should work. So let's check the browser and all the icons are fixed. So now let's move to our styling. Everything is done in the navbar.jsx. Okay, so there is an error here in container. we misspelled the container word, so we'll fix this. And now let's move to navbar.css. We should first get our container tag, container style, and our navbar style, which was navbar only. So here we need to style our height, which should be auto, and our background color, which we should pick from our color variables. Let it be dark blue. And the position, let's set the position as I think relative, absolute, no, well, let's move to container. We will define it as flexbox, and let's justify content. It should be center, and align items should also be center, so the items are centered both vertically and horizontally. Let's add padding. We will add both horizontal and vertical paddings. Let it be 10 and 30. So okay, the things are applied, but the background color I can't see that, so there is a possible error here. The background color should be there, which is dark blue. Okay, so the container tag, we had fixed its name, it was earlier wrong. Okay, here in the icons we don't need these extra brackets, although it has nothing to do with our background color, but let's remove them. And here's our last one. Here I think I made an error in the div. Okay, this div is correct. Okay, here div class name nav elements, which is a conditional div. It is ending at right after its declaration. It should end after all the nav elements. Okay, so let's see. No. Okay, the error has it fixed. Also, we had made an error and we solved the error, but it has nothing to do with the background color. But here I think the justify content should be space between. They are all merging together. Space between should create a space between them.
2 hours later.
Okay, since there was no error in the JSX file, the error was all related to CSS. So it was because of the CSS style I copied from app.css, which should have not done. Instead it should have been body, or instead if you don't even add the body, it's okay. I don't think there is going to be any difference. So here let's style our logo. Actually our logo we haven't styled it, so the color is black. So let's replace the color to white, and also let's style the span tag we are using to style our C and V in the logo. For logo I highly recommend using a SVJ or a image you have. Don't do this what I am doing. Never use an H1 tag to create your logo. It's just what lazy people do. So for color we'll use a variable light blue, and all logo should look fine. Code venture. Okay, so let's increase the padding size a little bit. Let it be 15 and let it be 40. Okay, then I think it looks fine. So let's move to our nav elements and our list. In this we will declare it as flexbox, and between the elements there should be spaces, so we'll go with justify content space between. Okay, let's see. I think it's all right. So now let's also add list style none. I don't think there is a list style existing, but let it be for any future bugs. For nav elements list items we will do the same. We will declare it as flexbox. We will center all the items, so we will do justify content center, and align items should also be center. We will also do the list style to none, and let's see. Okay, everything is going well. Okay, I think we should add margin right, and let it be 20 pixel. Okay, let the margin be a little bit bigger, let it be 25 pixel to the right. So now let's go for nav elements, another list, the A tag. So the A tag means the nav link, will keep it font size to 10 pixel. So when I'm talking about the A tag, it equals to the nav link here in React. So here, so now give it a little bit of weight. So let the font size be 15 pixel and the font weight, I think we should keep it 600 or 500. Yeah, 500 looks good. Now give it a color. Let's give the color white, which will look better on top of dark blue. Okay, so there is a text decoration, we need to remove that. We will give the text decoration and set it to none, because there is already a default text decoration there. Okay, let's increase the font weight a little bit, it should be 600, and yeah, it looks good. You can change it by whatever you like according to your preferences. So now let's style the icon. So let's go for nav elements, ul li I, the I tag for icon, and let's give it some font size. Let's make it a little bit larger than it currently is, because currently it's not showing at all. And let's give color again white. Okay, then let's give it a margin 10 pixel. And let it be right. Okay, so margin should only be on the right side, and it looks good. Okay, let's reduce the margin right to 7, and it looks good. Let's increase the margin for the UL items, so let it be 35 instead of 25, and it looks great. Okay, so now let's add some hover elements. So when you hover on the nav UL items, it should show up below the nav UL elements. So we will use the after tag in the CSS for that. So it will add some element after, I mean below the nav items. So let's add the content, and it should be an empty string. And now let's set it with to 100%. So it should cover the whole area below the item, and let the background color be white. And let's give it a little bit of height. So let's give it 3 pixel, and let it be a flex item. Okay, so now let's see. So it's working. I think we haven't added the hover yet, so that's why it's not moving. So we will add the hover. So we will copy this and let's paste it. We don't need all the elements in there. We will add the hover tag, and let's move the items there, and let's remove all that there is, and let's change the width. So the width here should be 100%, and on the top the width should be 0. So it should fluctuate from 0 to 100 when we hover over it. So as you can see, it's showing up when we are hovering, but let there be a little bit of transition, so it shouldn't be spontaneous. So let the transition be 0.5 seconds, and now it's working perfectly fine. So let's set the style when the tab is active. So the active tab should have a different style in the nav bar. So for that we will set nav elements ul a dot active. So when the nav link is active, the color should be different. So we will set the color using the variable light blue. So let's see. Okay, so our home tab is active. Let's set the portfolio and projects and contact. So whenever we click on a tab, and it's now the active tab currently, the color of the tab in the navbar will be different. Now let's set a comment for the media queries which will be added here. So now we will work on the mobile view of this web page. So we will add a sidebar to it. So let's open this here and we'll open the inspect tab. We'll set it for mobile. Okay then. So let's fix it a little bit, and now it's all good. So let's set the media query at 700 pixel. Max width will be 700. You might have to add multiple media queries to fix for different devices. We'll copy the container tag which contains all our elements. And we will change the padding. We will set it by viewport width. So the viewport width unit checks the width of your viewport, and according to it will set the spaces, the unit. So now let's go for the menu icon. So the menu icon display is none, which we hid during creating the menu icon, but here we require it, so we will set the display from none to block, and it should show up. We will also change the cursor around it, so it should be pointer when you clicking on that, and the color should be white. Okay, so now you can see it's very small between the home and the logo. Let's set its font size to increase its size. So now you can see it properly. So let's style our nav element here. We'll give it a position absolute because we need it at top of our page, so anything there is should come behind it. And now let's give it a width. So it will be 200 pixel, and let's give it background color using variable dark blue, and let's it height be 100 viewport height. We are giving it 100 viewport height because it should cover the entire height of the available viewport. So now let's use the conditional navbar state class name, which will affect whether the class name will show or not. We are going to use that by changing the width of the nav elements. So here we are going to set the width to 0, which is going to be the initial, and when clicked the nav icon, the width is going to be 200 pixel. So that's how it will show up. Okay, so let's fix this. We need it on the right side and covering the entire viewport. Okay, so let's set the overflow to hidden and the right to be 0, also the top. So let's set the top to 0 as well. So our menu is covering the entire viewport, and our menu icon is not showing up, so we'll use a Z index. You can set the Z index 99, 100, whatever you want, but I will set it to 4. I think 4 is enough. So it will show up at the top, and let's add some transition. Okay, so let's set transition to all the elements and let it be 0.3 seconds. Is in. Okay, I think there's an error here. Let's remove the transition, and the icon is not working. Okay, so there is, I think, a conditional error. Let's see. Okay, so the icons are wrongly placed. The icon X is placed above, which should be below. The first one should be the bar icon, so we will move it up here. We'll cut it and paste it on the top. Just let's remove this space, and yeah, let's paste it as the first element after the conditional. And now yes, it's the X item which is showing up. Yes, the first one should be bars and then it should be the cross one to close it, but it's not working the second time. So there is a issue with the true statement. It shouldn't be true, it should be the opposite of show navbar, because once it changes, it again goes back to true and false only. So now it's working and everything is fine. So now let's move to styling again and let's add the transition. So let's write transition and let it be all elements. It should be of 0.3 seconds and it should be ease in. Okay, so we will also add transition in the active. So let the transition be of around 0.8 seconds and it should work correctly. Okay, so now let's align our nav items. So our nav items are still in horizontally, we need to make it vertical. So let's go for nav elements, UL, and we will set it as flex as it's already here. We will copy it and we have to change the flex direction here. So we will remove the justify content and let's see. Okay, so let's set flex direction as column. Okay, so things are working. So now let's set the margin top. We will give it a margin top 10 viewport height, so it should go down a little bit, and let's give a padding left and it should be 20 pixel. Okay, so now we need to add a little bit margin to the elements itself, I mean the list items. So let's go for that. Nav elements, li, and let's give it a margin right, and let's set the margin right as auto, so everything will be fixed at a position on the left with a padding. So now let's give it a margin top. Let there be little bit space between each item and it should be 20 pixel, or maybe we should increase it to 23 or 22. Okay, so it's working. So with that our nav UI is completed and it's finished. So we can now add routing if we want. So let's now add a little bit routing. Let's add some routes. So we have already added some props by using 2. So we will now create some components for our home. So we will create a folder pages, and inside that we will create home.jsx, and then let's create another component. So in the pages we will create all the components that we require for it. We will create the portfolio.jsx, and let's create new file project.jsx, and the last one contact. So these 4 files will act as a route. So let's go to a home and we will import React, and now let's create a component. For that we will use const home arrow function, and now let's return h1 or h2. Okay, so div h2. In the h2 we will write home page. Okay, then now let's export this component. So we'll export default home. Okay, that's all right. So we'll copy this and let's go to a portfolio and paste it here. We'll select all the home word using ctrl plus D, which is the VS Code shortcut for selecting multiple words, and replace it with portfolio. So done. Now let's move to our project and do the same thing here. We'll paste it, select all the home, we'll press ctrl plus D shortcut, click, so it will select all the word and replace it with project. The shortcut can be different for your iOS, Mac. So this one is for Windows, and the last one contact, here it's done. Okay, so now all our components are created. So each component has a h1 which says project page, home page, or whatever the page is. So now let's move to our app JSX. We have the browser router. We need to import routes and also route from the React router DOM. We'll now import all our folders, files. So now let's import home from pages.home, and then let's import. Okay, so yeah, we'll import contact, and then let's import portfolio, and the last one project. Okay, done. We have imported Navbar, which we will also paste it down here, so all our import statements are together. So here we need to use routes. So inside the browser component we have Navbar, and below the Navbar we are using the routes, and the route component will declare the path. So the path slash means that it's the default one, and in the element tag we will declare our home component. So let's copy this and we will paste it 3 times, so that we will have 4 paths. So these paths are below the navbar, the route is below the navbar. So let's declare all the paths here. First one let's portfolio, second one let's contact, and the third one let be the project. So done. We also need to replace the vice versa for the component names. We'll replace all of them. So now let's individually change them to portfolio, contact, and the last one again project. So done. And now our routes are ready. Our path is what the URL is, which directs it to the component, and it's all binded in the route which is below the navbar component, and it's all acts inside the browser router. Our browser router is the parent component. We have imported all the files, so now it should work. So let's move and do, yeah, it's working. Okay, so there is a bug, the projects one is not working and rest all are working. So let's move to our projects component. I think the component is okay, there is no error because we just copy pasted it. So it should be navbar.jsx, and let's move to projects. So yeah, I think the error is we have here a plural name which is projects, which should be project. So yeah, replacing it should fix that. Let's refresh it and let's see. Home, portfolio, projects, yeah, it's working, and contact. So that's it, it's done and dusted. So that's it from this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any doubts or a bug in the code, you can post it in the comment. I will answer that. The source code of this navbar UI will be uploaded on my GitHub. I will put that in the video description. You can check that out. So let's meet you in the next video. Till then, keep coding.